Hey guys, so in this video we're just going to do our function transformation quiz review. The graph to the right is represented by which function? So looking at the picture, we should notice that it is a quadratic, so we're going to eliminate anything not raised to the second power. Unfortunately, everything is, so we can't cross off anything. Normally, our vertex is at 0, 0, so we're going to see how we shifted the new vertex. You should notice that we shifted to the left 1 and then down 2 units. So the left 1, we want an addition sign inside the parentheses. So that means 1 and 3 is eliminated. Now to figure out down 2, we want the number on the outside to be a subtraction sign, like we see right here. So by default, our answer is choice 2. And you should notice that our quadratic right here did get wider than usual, which is why we have that half on the outside. Just a reminder, if that a term, that coefficient, is between 0 and 1, it becomes wider. If your a term, that coefficient, is greater than 1, it becomes more narrow. And if you were unsure if this picture really was the equation that we came up with, all you have to do is go to your calculator, go to y equals, type in 1/2 x plus 1 squared minus 2, hit the graph button, and you should notice that those pictures are the same. If you want to look more into detail, you could see, is -3, 0 on this curve? Yes. Is -5, 6 on the curve? Yes. Is 1, 0 on the curve? You should notice everything in this table will match up to a point on that quadratic. For number 2, it says the graph of the function f of x equals the square root of x plus 4 is shown below. The domain of the function is, just a reminder, the domain is your x values. So we are going to focus in only on the x-axis. So as we go from left to right, so I'm going to take my pencil and scan left to right. I should notice that is my starting x value, and I'm going to continue to go on along the x, and my ending x value is going to be an arrow. So my starting x coordinate is 1, 2, 3, 4, -4. So my x values have to be greater than or equal to -4. And the reason why we chose choice 4 instead of choice 3 is because if you zoom in here, that is a closed circle, and closed circles means included. So we're going to use the line underneath. For 3, describe how the graph of the function x plus 3 squared minus 2 is related to the parent function, which is just plain old x squared. So we have to look at the different components of what's given. So when I see plus 3, I'm thinking left 3. And when I see this minus 2 right here, I'm thinking down 2 units. So now I'm just going to go through my answer choices and see what matches what I wrote. So left 3, down 2, our answer is choice number 2. The next question, which equation does the graph below represent? So looking at our choices, we should see this V-shaped line curve function. So I'm going to look at my choices. It can't be 1 because x squared is a quadratic, which is a curved line. So it can't be 1 or 2. So now we're looking at choice 3 and choice 4. Typically, our typically our vertex, our turning point, is at 0, 0. So we should see that it got shifted to the right 3 units. And when we shift something to the right 3 units, that's a horizontal shift, which goes inside the parentheses. It is choice 3. Again, if it was choice 4, our vertex would have been at positive 3, because that's saying that we took the absolute value function and shifted up 3. If you are unsure if it was choice 3 or choice 4, just type it into the calculator, hit graph, and then you will see the correct picture that pops up. For 5, the function f of x equals x squared minus 8 is graphed on the coordinate plane. The range of the function is. The range is our y values. So let's just look at our choices and see if we cross off anything first. The only thing that we can cross off is choice 1, because it's talking about x. The x value is our domain. So now we're between choice 2, 3, and 4. If you are unaware of what x squared minus 8 would look like, just a reminder, instead of at 0, 0, now our vertex was shifted down 8. So the absolute lowest point is 0, negative 8. Again, if you're not aware of that, go to y equals, type in x squared minus 8. You could pull up your table and look for the lowest y value, which is right here at 0, negative 8. Or you could hit graph and see the picture. The lowest y value is 0, negative 8. Or the lowest point, rather, is 0, negative 8. So our range, we go from the bottom to the top. So we're going to locate the lowest y value, which is negative 8. And as we scan up, we should see that our graph ends with arrows. So it's going all the way up to infinity. So our y values are from negative 8 to infinity. So choice 2 doesn't work because it's saying negative infinity to positive infinity. Now we're between choice 3 and 4. So we cannot pick choice 3 because this right here doesn't have a line underneath. We need to use the negative 8 with a line underneath because that point is included. It actually is a point on the graph. So it is choice 4. And just a reminder, our symbol, whenever we have an infinity sign, never gets a line underneath because we don't actually know where it's ending. It goes on and on forever. The postage for a letter is 45 cents for the letters up to and including 1 ounce. For each additional ounce or portion of an ounce, another 20 cents is charged. Which graph represents the postage of a letter weighing X ounces? Okay, so let's look at our choices. Up to and including an ounce. So that's anywhere from 0 to 1. But if you have 0, that means you have nothing, no letter. So we are not including that number. So when it's 0, we should have an open circle when our weight is 0. It can't be C, and then it can't be D. So now we're between A and B, and the only one that makes sense would be choice B, because from 0 to 1 ounce, if we look at this graph right here, it's saying it costs $0. But if we're looking at choice B, from 0 to 1 ounce, it would make sense that you're getting charged 45 cents. And then as you move up an ounce, you should see an increase of 20 cents. So it is choice B. The graph below shows the linear function y equals f of x. Which graph shows f of x plus 1? So f of x plus 1, this right here, means that we're taking the original graph, f of x, and we are adding 1. So I like to use the y-intercept. It is the easiest point to see. So if I took this green dot, that y-intercept, and I added 1, I'm shifting it up to here. And then every other point on this line would be shift up 1 unit. So the blue line would be my answer, and I'm just going to see which choice matches that blue line that I just sketched in. So our y-intercept from 1 to 2. Choice 2, my y-intercept is at 0. And then choice 3, my y-intercept is still at 1. The only one that got shifted up 1 unit is choice 1. For 7, write an equation for a quadratic function. So whenever I see quadratic, I'm thinking y equals x squared. This is saying shifted to the right 3, reflected over the x-axis, and stretched horizontally, which is just made wider, by a scale factor of 1/4. So my A term, that leading coefficient in front of my quadratic, would be a 1/4. So typically we have y equals x squared, right? But now my scale factor is 1/4. And we do have a shift that's horizontal to the right, which means it goes inside the parentheses. And then it said right 3, which means I need a subtraction sign, that negative sign, inside. And then it's saying reflected over the x-axis. So typically our quadratic looks like this. When we reflect it over the x-axis, it's flipped upside down. And to make this happen, we just throw a negative sign in front of the parentheses with that 1/4. So our final answer is y equals negative 1/4 x minus 3 squared. Write an equation for an absolute value function. So absolute value function that is shifted 1 unit up, three units to the left, and becomes more narrow by multiplying a scale factor of 4. So again, originally our absolute value function looks like this. And to perform these transformations, when I see left or right, I'm thinking inside the absolute value function symbols. So left 3 means we need to add 3 on the inside. Up 1, up and down goes on the outside. Up 1 means we're adding 1 to it. And if it's becoming more narrow, our coefficient in front of the symbol is a 4, because it told us with a scale factor of 4. So our final answer is y equals 4, absolute value of x plus 3 plus 1. Jessica graphed the equation y equals x squared. Elliot graphed the equation y equals negative 1/4 x minus 1 squared on the same coordinate grid. What is the relationship between the graphs that Jessica and Ellie drew? Well, Jessica created the parent function, so compared to Jessica's function, we're just going to describe what happened to Ellie's graph. So I'm just going to go left to right when I create or when I write out what happens. So this negative symbol right here means that we were reflecting the x squared, the quadratic, over the x-axis. And again, if you are unsure, type this into the calculator and it's going to show you how it was reflected, whether it was over the x or the y. This 1/4 right here means our quadratic was made wider, so it became wider. And then this -1 inside represents that it was shifted right